My name is Erin. I graduated in 2019 from the New Media program. I also had 2 minors in anthropology and psychology, and now I work at a company called Argentum Electronics, and they make a hardware to make buildings more efficient. So I started at UTSC in 2012. And I lived on residence for the first 2 years that I was going to school here. I joined the New Media program in 2nd year, and in my 3rd year, me and my other New Media students went over to Centennial College, and we did our applied portion of the program there. We learned a lot about coding and design and business skills and game design. We just learned a lot, a very broad range of skills. I think that one of the most valuable skills that I learned from the New Media program was really just the skill for how to do video editing and how to do group work and how to do projects together with a team. I learned a lot about, I ended up being the project manager a lot of the time in the group projects. And I sometimes was quite strict as the project manager. It was really interesting. I liked learning about that kind of stuff in Centennial College, and then in 4th year we focused a lot on using our skills from Centennial to create projects and that kind of thing. I was also very involved in campus. I was attendance supervisor in the summer of my last year. I worked in the Department of Student Life and in the Conference Services Department, and I also had a film club back then, so it was a good time all around. So I looked into tons of different programs online, and I ended up finding one organization called CUSO International that encouraged people to sign up for volunteer placements that related to their professional skills. So I looked up communications and marketing, and they happened to have something in communications in Cameroon. So Cameroon, the country in Africa. It's a bilingual country. It's French and English, and I did a French program in my 3rd year of university. The Explore program, I did my Explore program term in Moncton, and I got pretty decent at French there, so that's why I felt like I was fluent enough to go to Cameroon and into the French-speaking part of Cameroon and teach an environmental nonprofit there how to switch their website over to a more easy-to-use website that was just more user-friendly, so they wouldn't have to worry about cropping photos and everything just to make the photos and everything more more responsive. You need to make your website responsive, and so I taught them how to do that based on my skills that I learned in the New Media program, which was good. It was a really great experience, and you also get a stipend too, so it didn't actually cost me anything to do this, even though it was a volunteer placement. When I was in UTSC, I wanted to make sure that I was building a portfolio at the same time that I was in school so that I would have something to show to potential employers after the program, because I was assuming that I would do something either in graphic design or video work or something like that, or maybe even website design. So I started just learning how to use Adobe Photoshop, and I took a training certification course in it, which gave me a pretty good foundation for Photoshop. And I also learned Illustrator kind of as part of the New Media program, and then used it more on my own when I wanted to create my own brand. I've actually had 3 brands, 3 personal brands. My first one was producing Erin, because I thought that I would be a producer and I wanted to create a brand for myself so that I could create a website, and I created that logo on Illustrator, and so I got my foundation of Illustrator doing that. I also got my foundation in video editing from the program, from the New Media program. We learned with Final Cut though. But I switched over to Adobe Premiere Pro when I got my first job after the Cameroon experience. I started reaching out to different people in my community, in my town, asking if they wanted videos done for their companies and that kind of thing. My first paid gig, I got it from the town of Lincoln. Lincoln is a town in Niagara, and I did a promotional video for their tourism department. And yeah, that was my first paid gig. I was very excited about it, and I got that gig just from networking in going to these events called Business After 5. They were online networking events, and you got to meet lots of different business owners at them. So whenever I went to those, I made sure that I was like very friendly and communicated with most people, asked questions, and learned more about what everyone was doing with their businesses and what they needed, and then thought about like how I could provide value for them. So that is how I first started getting gigs, and then the town of Lincoln referred me to lots of other clients. And then I also got clients just from additional promoting to other people through Business After 5 or through the Rotary Club, just different organizations that business owners would be a part of in the town and in like the communities surrounding that town. The first brand that I launched for myself was called Producing Erin. And then maybe like a year later, I decided that Producing Erin didn't really serve much of a purpose for me anymore because I was moving more into content creation. So right before I left my job at Grimsmo Knives, I started to rebrand myself, and I called myself Erin for Real, like R-E-E-L. And so I created a whole new logo with that brand in mind, and that's when I created my portfolio website. This was about in 2019 that I created this brand, so actually it was like quite a few years after I created the Producing Erin brand. And then maybe like 6 months to a year after I created Erin for Real, I decided I didn't even really like it very much, so I wanted to rebrand myself with some colors and a logo that I really loved, and now I still have that same brand. It's called Story Unlocked, and I have a website now that's still called Story Unlocked, and you can see the services on there. It's mainly photography, videography, and graphic design. And then some other services that I offer are like UX design and marketing and consulting work and SEO stuff. So obviously for anyone, it's really difficult to make the decision to start your own business, and you might wonder, okay, where do I get started? So the way that I got started was I tried to find out who could hold my hand as I started my business. So I found this one organization in St. Catharines called the St. Catharines Enterprise Center. There's lots of enterprise centers in many different towns. You could probably find your own relative enterprise center in your own town, and they basically offered consulting for how to start a business. They offered like bookkeeping webinars, lots of webinars about how to create a business plan. So I created my own business plan at that time with them kind of like holding my hand as I did that. And then they had this one grant program that I applied for so that I could get $5,000 towards my business with the grant. And the $5,000 that I would get would go into growing my business and building it. So I did end up getting the grant. It was a very long process though, because we had to do mentorship. Like there was a couple sessions of mentorship every month, and the application process lasted 5 to 6 months. So I decided to buy a wide-angle lens for real estate photography and videography, and that's basically what the $5,000 went towards, as well as a new camera body. Someone the other day asked me how I got involved in the marketing side of things when I started out in content creation and with the new media program. They asked me if I was professionally trained in marketing, and the answer that I gave them was just, yeah, I learned mainly content creation through the new media program. They didn't really teach us much marketing strategy. But there are lots of courses online and YouTube videos, so I learned a lot about marketing through YouTube videos, and it's very helpful if you look into different concepts in marketing and do a deep dive into those different concepts, like with SEO or like with inbound versus outbound marketing, just different concepts like that. So I was doing content creation, and then I just needed a strategy to promote my content creation. So that's how I got into marketing, and I also needed to do marketing for my own business. So I figured out kind of like what worked marketing-wise with my own business too. And I've actually also done 2 international programs, and in the second international program that I did in Tanzania, that was more marketing focused, and I kind of was like partnered with a marketing professional with 10 years experience, so she helped answer a lot of my questions too. I think that maybe a couple years down the road, Hopefully I'll still be working at the company that I'm at right now. This company that I'm working for, it's a tech startup and they're still relatively new, like they're in their seeding phase, and I am the only person on marketing in their team, so I hope to grow with them and then become a leader in their company. I also hope to create a strong social presence for them. I think that there's a lot of really interesting videos that we can create together, and I just hope that we can like gain a big following. But I'm still kind of developing what my business will be in the future. Like, my business was pretty clear cut before I got this job. The business was photography, video, and design for small businesses in Niagara, like small to medium-sized businesses in Niagara. And then when my husband and I moved to Cobourg from Niagara, I didn't have that client network anymore. So I needed to find a full-time job, and so that's where this tech startup came in. But I still kind of need to reevaluate how my company is going to look now that I'm in a different location. It also gives me, like, the new location also gives me an opportunity to like change the direction of my business completely. Like, maybe it won't be focused on small businesses. Maybe it'll be focused on like being an influencer for tech companies and creating content for them and that kind of thing. I would just give people the advice that if you feel like something isn't really working out, then don't just try and stick with it for the sake of like loyalty to the company and loyalty to the team. Just try and find other opportunities and try and develop your skills so that you can meet the needs of those opportunities that you want to have in the future. Like, say if you want to work at a certain company like TVO or something, then look at what other people are doing in TVO and see what other jobs they have that maybe you would want, and then try and contact them or try and like ask a hiring manager what they're looking for when they hire for someone in a role like that, and then just like base what you learn off of that, like base your education and everything off of that. And then also a little bit of a challenge for me was money during university, and one like kind of regret that I have is not starting to look for clients back when I was in university. I think I was too focused on being involved in the campus and finding like little jobs where they would pay me, but like, you know, they can't always afford to pay a lot for campus jobs, so I would recommend just like trying to find clients, even if they're very low paying clients, where you can just build your portfolio and start doing professional work for them in photography or videography or graphic design or whatever you've decided to focus on. Because client work is very, very cool and it makes a lot of money if you do it right, so try that out. So when I was in first and second year university, especially first year university, I really wanted to be involved on the campus. That was like my number one goal, was to just get involved in the campus and find different ways that I could be involved. And it ended up making me feel like I was very spread thin, and I probably ended up disappointing some people because I probably like dropped the ball on a few different projects because I was so focused on like schoolwork and then this project and that project and being involved here and making new friends. Like, all of these things are things that you're doing in first year. But I would just go back and tell myself to chill out a little bit and don't try and get so involved in everything like in your first year. There's time in first year to just make friends and focus on your schoolwork, get a good foundation for what your study practices and habits are going to be. And then in second year, maybe you'll have a basis to understand what you actually want to focus on involvement-wise on the campus. And then you kind of have a plan, like you have a strategy for where you want to be involved rather than just diving right into everything and disappointing people and maybe doing something that wouldn't even be as fun, like wasn't even really what you wanted to do in the first place, you know? Like, try and just be very focused and direct with your time. Like, just be, there's a word that I'm trying to think of, intentional. Like, try and be very intentional with your time and what you get involved with. Make sure that what you're doing is something that you really want to do, and like give yourself patience and let yourself, you know, decide later on what you want to be intentional about getting involved in.